Unfortunately, I've got more bad news that there are more layoffs in the tech sector. This was actually made super famous a few weeks ago when Meta announced huge layoffs at their company, which has always been one of the big tech giants when it comes to the FANG companies. And this is really surprising because they make billions of dollars a quarter, and yet they are still having massive layoffs. So even though the tech industry is known to be pretty resilient, which is what we've seen in 2020 during COVID, when every other industry was struggling and suffering, tech stocks were booming. Right now, it's not looking so good. So this is probably a pretty strong indicator that there is some type of economic uncertainty and instability happening right now. So I'm going to give you a quick update on the current tech layoffs that are happening right now in 2022. So if you want to stay up to date on current tech industry trends and just hiring trends in general, as well as career advice, you're going to want to click subscribe to this channel and share this video with a friend who works in tech or is thinking about getting a job in tech right now. All right, so according to Crunchbase, there have been 42,000 tech employees laid off so far in 2022. And a lot of this has to do with the economic uncertainty and as well as the stock market. Almost all tech companies are down almost up to 45% from the beginning of the year in terms of their stock price. So a lot of companies are being very conservative right now with their financials, their budgets, and their headcount. Facebook, Oracle, Cisco, VMware, and so many more companies have announced layoffs and hiring freezes. In this video, I'm going to talk about the really notable ones that you should be aware of, ones that for really popular tech companies that a lot of people are thinking about working for. But if you want to see a full comprehensive list that's actually updated every single day, you're going to want to check out this website called layoffs.fyi. This is not a sponsored video by them. I just wanted to be as helpful for you as possible. The link down there will be in the description. So first, let's talk about Amazon, who unfortunately had to lay off a few thousand people earlier this month. Reportedly, it's among hardware and devices, Alexa, HR, and some of their retail divisions. Supposedly, it's mostly in the Seattle area, but there are some people who have been laid off in other offices here in the US. Their stock is currently down around 40% from the beginning of the year. Apple, in some slightly better news, actually has not done any layoffs, but they did announce a potential hiring freeze within certain divisions. And overall, their stock is only down around 17% from the beginning of the year. So of all the tech companies, the major tech companies, Apple financially seems to be doing the best for now. Meta, or Facebook, as everyone famously knows, has had a hiring freeze for a few months now, and it's across all of the divisions. Meta has also announced that they're going to be reducing their potential 2023 hiring and headcount targets. So far, around 11,000 Meta employees have been laid off. Meta's current stock price year to date is down almost 60% from the beginning of the year. And this does make sense though, because they are shifting away from their primary business, which was ads, making them the majority of their money. And they are taking a huge bet by betting on the metaverse and things in virtual reality. So this is making sense because they're shifting away their funding away from their primary revenue generating source historically, and are making big bets on potential future technology applications, which it requires a lot of R&D investment. And of course, there is going to be some skepticism from the market. And so to account for that, the company is going to need to potentially reduce some of their financial risk by having some cost reduction efforts. Next, let's talk about Microsoft, which has had 2 rounds of layoffs. The most recent one was in October of 1,000 employees, reportedly in their gaming division. And year to date, their stock is only down 26%, which is only slightly worse than Apple, but much better than the rest of the tech industry. Next up is Google, or Alphabet. They have had no official layoffs yet, but their stock price is down 30% from the beginning of the year, and they have announced a hiring freeze for the majority of their G&A functions, which is like marketing, finance, and things like that, as well as software engineering. But I do believe that their hardware and silicon divisions are hiring. Other notable tech companies is Cisco, which laid off 4,000 employees, Uber laid off 4,000 employees, Twitter another 4,000, Airbnb 1,900. Netflix also has reportedly laid off around 300 people, which makes sense because their stock price has gone down a bit since we've come out of the COVID era and people aren't stuck at home so much with all of these vaccines out. DocuSign reportedly laid off around 9% of their total employee group, and ByteDance or TikTok has reportedly laid off a few hundred people in their gaming division. So while the overall tech industry is slowing down right now, I can see a few trends that are going to be very helpful for you when you're thinking about applying for a job, or if you're working at a tech company and you're thinking or wondering if you are going to potentially have layoffs. And the first one is, of course, looking at the stock price and the financial performance of your company. If your stock price is down, let's say more than 30% from the beginning of the year, a lot of these companies have announced layoffs in certain divisions. Also, another reason why your stock price could be down is if your company is making drastic changes in their business model. For example, they're thinking about changing their main revenue sources from what has historically worked for them in the past, and they're moving on into new areas. Or they're heavily investing into R&D and they're taking some big bets. This could be like Meta, where they're investing in new technology, or this could be a shift in the overall business model because we are coming out of the COVID period, where a lot of tech companies did very well because a lot of people were basically stuck in their house and they weren't able to go outside. So companies like Netflix or Peloton. So these are just a few trends and things in the business you're going to want to keep an eye out for. So if you're seeing writing on the wall, you're going to want to watch out and be prepared to do something. Now, as a recruiter, another really common question I get is which industries are still hiring right now, or which ones are not doing layoffs. And so far, the one that I've seen is the most strong, or has not done any layoffs and is actually doing a lot of hiring, is financial services and banking. This makes sense because a lot of these banks and financial institutions are trying to move over into doing a digital transformation and also need to increase their cybersecurity because there have been a lot of negative press about hacks and people's identity and personal information being stolen. And banking has proved to be pretty resilient throughout most of history because if you think about it, a lot of these hedge funds and banks and financial management asset companies are owned and managed and work with very wealthy people, sometimes the richest people in the world. So whether the economy is going up or down, they're still finding ways to move money around and have other investments that are making them money. So private equity firms, hedge funds, other financial asset management companies, these are going to be really good industries to be looking at right now if you are looking for a job. All right, so what are some key takeaways for you if you're watching this video? Well, if you are working at a tech company and you have not been laid off yet, I would suggest you don't leave. The grass is probably not going to be greener on the other side. And if you are a brand new employee at a company, I can tell you from an HR perspective, when the company needs to make layoffs and do budget cuts, they are going to let go the newest employees. And they're going to try their best to keep the most tenured ones because companies want to reward loyalty. So if you are the newest employee, unfortunately, you're probably going to be let go. And this is true because I had friends who worked at Meta who recently joined, and someone even joined the week that they announced layoffs, and then they were immediately let go. Another key takeaway that's going to be actually hugely beneficial for your career development and growth over time is that if you are at your company and you have not been laid off, try to get more responsibility and increase your scope. For example, if there was a manager on a team that was laid off, see if you can volunteer to step up and take a temporary managerial role. This is basically giving you a pseudo promotion. Yes, you will not be paid for it, which I know some people will be very mad about, but this is going to be very beneficial for your career because it makes you more valuable to the company, so you're less likely to get laid off. Remember, having a job but not being paid the higher level for the promotion you're doing is better than not having a job and making zero money. Also, times like this when you can step up and get a pseudo promotion without having to wait 2 to 5 years for that promotion are ways that people accelerate their career over time. So look to find ways to get more responsibility. Now, another key tip here is that it's better to be laid off by your company than to proactively try to leave and find a job. The reason for that is because if you are laid off, the company will give you a severance package. Typically, it starts with about 4 weeks of severance pay, and then companies typically give you another week of pay per year that you have worked there. So it's actually better to get laid off so you can get more of a financial buffer so it gives you more time to find another job. Alright, so my intention of this video was not to get anybody too depressed or having too much of a negative outlook on the tech industry, but I do want to make sure that everyone in my audience is up to date. If you were unfortunately laid off and affected in the tech industry right now, I am so sorry to hear that, but here at the Career Shakers community, we are here to support you as much as we can. Leave a comment down below what types of jobs you're looking for, what your background is, and we'll see if we can help you find a role. And if you were laid off, I did make a video on this channel on how to get a job if you were laid off right away. It's got some really cool tips that are gonna help you find a new job so that you can start 2023 fresh. All right, thank you all for watching. Really appreciate your time.